All right, here I am staring blankly at the screen in a dance studio and with makeup on because I've been performing, doing this video this morning, video shoot for the dance that I've just done. So I actually, one of the people in my room is about to go on a solo retreat, meditation retreat. And the other thing that has been really resourceful for me during this past weekend of performing and having a lot of things going on has been the ability to just stop and go into myself and be with myself in sensation and let my body process all the things that are going on in silence, in stillness. In this case today, it'll be in movement. And this kind of work also is really recuperative for me. But sometimes it can be that we start to go in and it's like, oh my God, there's so much in here. Or there's so much in here and I can't stand it. I want to distract myself with a million things. And I think that we're really living in the age of distraction. Like there is no time like now to be distracted by everything at all times. So tools to go in, we're going to use breath and sound and movement. And maybe we'll kind of dial back to this idea of really, really basic movement, like micro movement, which is happening in our bodies all the time anyway. But what we want to start to do is tune into it and allow it to express maybe a little bit more fully. As we have been humans, learning how to be humans in our human bodies, often we've learned how to inhibit movement. We've learned how to sit still. We've learned how to be quiet. We've learned how to shut down our natural responses. And so in this today, with this movement meditation, we'll invite in some processing on a movement level with sound, micro movement, awareness. And the other thing I'd like to offer is that don't take yourself too seriously. If you get in there and things are looking really fraught and horrible, see if you can find any lightness within that, anything funny about it. Like humor is the way that like I get through life, like laughing at the most awful things that are happening because it's a way of letting that energy out. So seeing if, I mean, even just talking about things being funny makes me want to laugh and smile. So if you go in there and you're meeting your own demons, maybe see if there's anything humorous about that situation. And if it's too scary and if you feel like, oh my God, no, I need to stop, then feel free to distract yourself in any of the regular ways or go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, move and come into stillness. So I'm going to sit in a straddle because this is the most comfortable way for me to be vertical in my spine without standing or being seated on something. And let's just start with the Theta breath. So my earbuds are going to cut out the sound, but it's a soft hiss. And as we do the soft hiss, it's just going to extend the exhale. We're not trying to make the exhale last forever. It just lasts as long as it lasts, and that's fine. And if you get tired and you feel like, oh my God, I need to breathe regularly, just breathe regularly. We want to always be in this class turning towards what is nourishing for us, turning towards what is relieving, turning towards what is a way to let go, as opposed to pushing and forcing ourselves into places that don't fit us or our bodies into these ways of being that are inorganic for our animal body. So just working for a few minutes with the Theta breath. You're going to inhale and then start with a hiss, soft hiss, for as long as it lasts on the exhale. And what's coming up immediately for me, like a somatic response, is this sort of almost like a snake charm or spinal movement, like, oh, the hiss is happening, let me move. So inviting in any kind of micro movement from your body, it might be your limbs, it might be your central column, your spine, it might be coming from anywhere, or it might just be your head and neck. And eyes can be open or closed, whatever feels good to you. The hissing sound is just coming on the exhale. On the inhale, try to inhale through your nose. So with the micro movement or with the internal sort of flows that are happening naturally, you might be able to find them and sort of ride them with your awareness or be like, oh, there's this natural heartbeat flow, or there's this natural breath flow, or there's natural movement flow. My body is seeking this movement or these little adjustments, these internal adjustments, and allow that to just come in and play out. We talk about initiation and follow through and movement in our bodies. Sometimes maybe something starts somewhere and it ripples up and goes somewhere else and then comes out to another place. So inviting in that idea of almost like these little magical trails and pathways moving through your body, impulses of energy in towards movement, and trusting that that movement, whatever it is, whatever micro movement or macro movement comes out, is there to nourish your system, to let go of any of the cultural holding patterns or familial or political holding patterns that have kind of taught you to maybe armor or rein it in or hold it down. Now you're just inviting some of that to free up. And don't worry, it's not going to suddenly go bonkers and you won't be able to stop moving unless you turn into me. Then it might happen. But mostly it's going to be like, oh, yeah, I can stop whenever I want. I can pause in stillness. But inviting your whole body to sort of come online as this organic living form, this organic living body of water. Then you could bring in the theta breath as a soundtrack for your movement. And you could imagine that we're all in a room together, me, you, and all the imaginary friends, and that we can hear this hiss coming from other people, right? It's not just your own hiss, but there's like this soft, gentle releasing sound, a little bit watery, a little bit steamy, and lots of air. Really inviting your body to offload any stress that's happening, any impingement or any kind of squishing in that you may have done to yourself, inviting that to just melt away. Or like with the steam, it just dissipates. So inviting in any kind of dissipation of the tension that you hold. And how do we even know we're holding tension? That's one of the reasons we start moving, to be like, oh, this moves easily. There's no tension there. Or, oh, I'm really having a hard time moving at all. There's a lot of stuff inhibiting movement. So it may be your imagination that opens you up to movement. It may be that you can feel the urge to move. It may be kind of like these energetic kriyas that start to open up, but know that even if that's happening, even if these like sort of nervous system response movements are happening, you can always calm them down. It doesn't have to be something that goes wild and crazy, unless that feels good, and then go for it. You can also imagine that you're playing with the 3 dimensions, or the up, down, the side, the forward, backward, and all the possibilities, like moving in planes, moving in spirals, inviting in 3-dimensional space as a tool to play with, as a nourishing tool to go, oh, what does it feel like behind me in the back space, right back, and or what does it feel like in front of me? How am I in my sideness? And what's the up and down like, right? So we've got our vertical our sagittal forward, backward, and our horizontal side, side. And we could do that like as a line in a sort of pure dimension, or we can make it planar. So we're moving more in planes. And this could even be small, micro movement, or bigger macro movement, but feeling into it, experimenting in the lab of your body with what it feels like to move in these different ways, inviting in this tool of three-dimensional space to be your partner. No matter what, your body exists in three-dimensional space. And so it's like forming a relationship with it, like, oh, it feels really good to move backwards, or it feels really good to move forwards, or I need to expand out and widen into the space. So letting yourself think about how those dimensions land when you play with them, right? You can do it on the floor too. And then we're going to think also about the breath and this idea of growing and shrinking with the breath. So even our cells are breathing. We're breathing on a cellular level. And that's part of our life support, right? That growing and shrinking with the breath and this movement of our blood through our body, nourishing the organs, nourishing the muscles, carrying the oxygen to our tissues and taking out the CO2 and eliminating waste, right? Metabolic waste. So letting yourself move with that. Letting yourself move as if you're just breathing from your cells, cellular breathing. And that can be this sense of growing and shrinking on this very micro level or on a bigger macro level, whatever feels right. Even if you don't think of moving and you just tune into your breath, there's going to be a natural growing and shrinking. So allowing yourself to tune to that. And it may feel like, oh, I don't want to grow into the front space. I don't want to get bigger in the front, or I don't want to get bigger in the back. Try not to objectify yourself in that way. Just go into the experience of feeling into it, like feeling, what is it like to take up more space in the front space? Or what is it like to move and take up space in the back space, to feel into that support? So it's not an idea about what our body should look like, but it's an experience of what we can feel like. Can I soften my hands, right? Can I make each little joint in my hands have some relationship to space? Hey, Susan. So every little joint in my hands, and as I'm moving my joints of my hands around, that's going to go into my wrists, into my elbows, into my radius and ulna, into my humerus, my upper arm, into my scapula, my collarbones, my rib cage and lungs, right? This whole connected body, that I can find this little tiny movement here at the capillary edges of my fingers, where the arterial flow is going out and the venous flow is going back. But it's also waking up my nervous system in a way, right? Tuning into these little digits, core distal, center to edge. So that growing and shrinking happens very easily with this core distal relationship, reaching out. And if you look at the way that like synapses connect in our body, or even cells, like there's like this growing and shrinking, there's this radiation and then coming back in. So feeling into that. Imagining that on this deep level, on this cellular level, there's all this growing and shrinking going on. There's all this interwoven relating in the tissue and in the energetic system of your body. And let's play with one more sound. Let's work with a hum. So actually, we're going to work with not just a hum. It's going to be an inhale and then voommmm. So it's like VOO into mm.
And you're going to spend some time on the sound, the humming, and then you're going to inhale through your nose. So it's an inhale through your nose. Voommmm. Inhaling back through your nose. So we're going to help with that nitric oxide into our blood, which is super healthy for many, many, many reasons, which you can Google and find out. So I'm not going to talk about that, but I want to get that breath in there. So it's a VOOM. When you get to the M, you might want to let your tongue undulate within your own mouth so that there's some aliveness in there. It might feel interesting. It might be too much to think about, so don't worry about it if it's too much. In through your nose. Voommmm. Inhaling back through your nose for however long it's comfortable for you. And I'm going to play with the sound on the floor. You could be in stillness as you play with the sound, or it can be your soundtrack, the record player, the CD, the 8-track that you're listening to, the MP3. Again, let yourself take resting breaths or feel into it. So we're going into sensation, right? And these tools, even if we're playing with the space, that space is still inside of our body, right? We're playing with our relationship with our own movement. So what I've actually been doing since I'm dancing a lot this weekend is when I do my stillness meditation, I am usually coming in and crossing like one foot over the other. So I'm crossed, and then usually either hands are together and crossed or here, so that my energy is crossing and coming in. It's not dissipating outward. But we can think, because sometimes in a radiated outward position, I can be taking in energy. It's not just going out. But when I'm really feeling depleted and I need to bring myself into myself, I bring my arms and legs crossed and allow myself to play in there. So it might be interesting to play with just crossing and feeling what that is like for you. Going in with crossed arms and legs has a different effect on the nervous system. Anytime we cross midline, we're doing something very different than when we're expanded and open. So sometimes when we need to call ourselves back in or come in, just crossing in and closing in is very nurturing. So I'm just gonna add music and we will carry on. I'm using the same one over and over again because I really like it, and it's the Ambient Fields album number 2, song number 1. So let the sound influence your movement. And all of this stuff we're taking in sound, we're making sound, is creating that vibration in your body, right? Or the movement. And maybe you can feel that pulse
of your life force, right? Your blood, your heartbeat, the electricity moving through your body, the energy body. Tuning inwards with gentleness, kindness, softness, without a need, like you're not trying to fix or change it. You're just tuning into sensation, feeling into it. And as you're in there, if you notice anything you can let go of it. But you don't have to fix it. Like sometimes letting go of the idea of letting go of anything can be a big relief. And then also just trusting that some of these things are going to recharge or nourish you. Maybe recharging is the wrong thing. Maybe just nourishment, right? Nourishing your physical body through movement and presence with yourself. Allowing yourself to focus on movement and sensation, right? That can be your shamatha object, the movement of the breath or the movement of your body or the pulse of your heart, the sensation of being. Allowing yourself to be in your own experience and to experience your own experience, not to be distracting yourself from what is going on, but letting yourself tune into the sensation of movement, the sensation of breath, maybe even the sensation of the sounds around you or coming from you. one of the reasons we feel anything is because we have a nervous system, right? Our brain, our nervous system routed out through the fascia. And as we move, the movement of the fascia is also moving those nerves. So we know, oh, that's what's happening. This is how I'm moving. This is how I sense movement. It's this interrelated, interwoven matrix. And as the nerves are routing out through the fascia, there should be some relationship of movement and capacity to move through there. So if the fascia is getting really tight and stuck, your nerves are going to have a harder time moving through it, right? Or interrelating, being interwoven. So just for this moment, let's just imagine that those nerves all have these really healthy myelin sheaths that are just making those nerves feel so good in your body. The nerves are just in there hanging out, and they don't need to be worried or upset or anything. They're just, they're bathing in your body, in the suspension of being held within your body. And imagining that those nerves are getting all the exact right nourishment to have those nice sheath coatings that keep them easy. They don't have to get all wiry and ganky, but they can be suspended in your body, nourished in your body, right? Even the fascia is rooting through the nerves. It's not just the nerves through the fascia. It's all intricately interwoven. The fascia is the organ of form. And it forms in accordance with how we move, right? So when we give it some softness and some gentleness and some pliancy, we give it this elasticity. The blood is floating along through there. The vasculature, the venous and arterial blood is routed out through there too. So as we're moving, we're also just increasing the integrity of our veins and arteries, the health of our veins and arteries. And anytime you start to wander, your mind starts to wander, the flow of your thoughts starts to wander away into something other than this present moment, just bring it back through sensation. Or some little wiggly movement to awaken that awareness, to bring it back in. inviting all of your conceptions of being to sort of turn towards being supportive of your experience of being, right? Like I can imagine the space around me and my sensation of moving in space. It's a concept, this idea of the vertical, horizontal, and sagittal. These are ideas that we have made up. As I move, the space isn't changing, I'm just moving. The pulsing energies of my body are there, whether I pay attention to them or not. But once I start to relate to them, then it's a different thing. It's not something separate. It's my interwoven, connected, dynamic experience of being. And when I'm in that, I can let go of some of my grippy, graspy, crunchy stuff and just be in the fluidity of being. Letting go of the story. Maybe the story's there, that's okay. But just being in the experience. Letting the concept of my nervous system, the concept of my fascia be supportive of my being. This resonant system in resonance with other systems, the whole planet. Coherence and resonance. Resting in that. Yeah, even like attuning to the wonder of being, the wondrousness. And for me, I feel like the wondrousness of being is really not in the place that I know anything. It's in the place where I don't know anything. And I'm just, what is going on? I'm able to be in the inquiry, the real inquiry of like, what is happening? Experiencing this moment on this deeply embodied level. So it's not just a thought in my head about what it is to be here on the planet in a body. It's a whole full body experience. And everything around it is part of it. And I can shut down the stuff and come deeper in here, or I can be like expanding out. All of it is happening within my experience. So there's no reason in a weird way to fight against anything because it's there. Would you fight against the wall? I mean, I have gotten mad at walls before, but would you fight against the floor? Well, the floor is just there, right? So the things that are stressing us out sometimes, it's just what it is. Can we be with it? Can we be with our experience in that space and go, oh, that's what's happening? I've been getting a lot of opportunity to do that lately. So it is good to laugh at it sometimes, be like, wow, okay, that's what's happening. And both for the good and the bad, like all of it's wow. Anyway, I am going to close out the live stream. So if you are there in TV land, I think there was, I don't know if there's anybody with us today. Maybe.